Hello students, let's understand nucleophilic substitution reaction mechanism for haloalkanes and haloarenes using this presentation. Nucleophilic substitution reaction of haloalkanes. Here we are taking an example in general where the nucleophile, the electron-rich species, like for an example, it may be a hydroxide, OH with a negative charge. Nucleophiles are not always charged, negatively charged. They may be neutral also, but if they are electron rich, they have lone pairs in them, they are also termed as nucleophiles. In this particular example, we are taking a nucleophile which is negatively charged, and then we will see that how it displaces this halide ion. That is why we are calling it a nucleophilic substitution reaction, because in haloalkane, that is this compound, maybe methyl chloride for example, if I write it this way, methyl, here I cannot leave these three bonds like this. Otherwise, it would mean that there are more carbons attached here in the bond line. So if I'm saying methyl, then I have to attach hydrogens here. These are very simple things which I keep telling every time. They will help you a lot. And then here it is Cl attached to it. So this is a general reaction and this is a specific reaction that I am telling you side by side. So when they react under the required conditions for the reaction, then this Cl or the halide, Cl minus, X minus in general, would be replaced by the nucleophile and this halide would be set free. So this is going to give me, after the reaction, a compound where Cl has been displaced and OH has come in its place. So from alkyl halide, it's a simple reaction. We are getting an alcohol along with the chloride ion. Now this is the simple, very simple nucleophilic substitution reaction. I have started with a primary alkyl halide. Why am I calling it primary? Because the carbon attached to halogen is not attached to any other carbon. So those which are having such carbons which are not attached to any other carbon or are just attached to one more carbon, they are called primary alkyl halides. So here I have started with a primary one, and then as we understand the mechanism, we'll be discussing secondary. And now let's understand the mechanism of the nucleophilic substitution reaction. Mechanism means the detailed explanation which tells us that how the different steps are being followed in carrying out a particular reaction. And it has been found that this reaction proceeds via two different mechanisms. So the first mechanism that I am explaining is substitution, nucleophilic, bimolecular. And we write the symbol SN2 for it. S for substitution, N for nucleophilic, and bi means two. So 2 for bimolecular. Now the meaning of the term bimolecular here, substitution and nucleophilic are clear. Every term has a meaning here. It is clear that it is a substitution reaction. OH is getting substituted finally and Cl minus is getting removed. And because OH minus is a nucleophile, that's why it is nucleophilic substitution. And bimolecular we call it because the reaction follows a second order kinetics. Second order kinetics means the rate of the reaction, the speed of the reaction depends upon the concentration of both the reactants, that is the nucleophile and the haloalkane. Now this structure of haloalkane is called wedge and dash representation. This line, which is the bold one, it is coming towards us. It's shown like a wedge. It is coming towards us out of the plane of the screen. And this line, dash, this is also going out of the plane, but it is on the other side, behind the screen. And this H, which is attached to the carbon in the middle, all these atoms are attached to the carbon in the middle, and this Cl, these two bonds or these three atoms I can say, They are in the plane of the screen. This is a tetrahedral structure. Here the tetrahedral structure is quite evident. Suppose this is carbon in the middle and these three white ones, these are hydrogens. This is one hydrogen. This is the 3D structure that I have kept here specifically to make it more clear for you. And suppose this is the Cl. Now here the angles are equal. If you turn it, the molecule which is tetrahedral, turn it in any direction, anyhow, you will see all the bonds are at equal distance, equal angle from each other, and that is 109.5 degrees. So that is the angle when you have all the four attachments exactly same. Because you have a Cl here, which again has three lone pairs and which is bigger in size, so that will repel more. So the bond angles will slightly change from 109.5, but still it is having the geometry which is called tetrahedral. Now something very interesting to understand from here before I take you back to the reaction, that the Cl, which is electron rich, it has three lone pairs around it, right? And then something which is called a nucleophile, that is electron rich. Nucleophile means nucleus seeking, which is coming in search of a positive charge. So this carbon which is here, that is having a delta positive charge because it is attached to Cl, which is delta negative. So there is polarity in the molecule because of the CCl bond. Now this OH minus will definitely attack on carbon because of its positive charge. This OH minus will not come from the side where Cl is already placed, because Cl is electron rich, OH is electron rich, OH minus, and they will be repelling each other. So this path is not possible. It will face minimum repulsion from Cl when it comes from exactly 180-degree opposite side. So it will be safely attacking on carbon from this side, which is exactly opposite to Cl, which is placed here. If you have understood this point, you can easily explain SN2 anywhere now. Let's go here. What is happening here? This is coming towards me out of the plane. This is behind the plane. And the Cl is already attached to carbon in the middle, and then OH is also coming and making a bond. Please notice these dotted lines. They are showing that the bond between carbon and Cl is not yet completely broken, and the bond between carbon and OH is not yet completely formed. So we call this an intermediate, which is unstable, because carbon can make only 4 bonds and here it is showing roughly 5 bonds, if not completely. So this cannot be stable. Then finally what happens? The bond between CCl breaks, Cl minus is set free, and OH and carbon make a proper bond and we get this alcohol. Simple reaction. Now what changes have occurred here in the reaction? From the stereochemical aspect, they are very, very important. Here you can imagine that you had an umbrella which was like this, and Cl is here. So this is from where you are holding the umbrella. And when it converts to the alcohol, what is happening? Carbon is having 3 bonds like this, and OH has come this side. Reason we know that why OH is coming from exactly 180-degree opposite side, to make the repulsions minimum from Cl and to attain stability and to easily safely attack on the carbon. So here you can imagine it this way, that this umbrella which we started with here, it has inverted, like because of strong winds sometimes the umbrella that we are holding gets inverted. So now it has inverted like this. This is called inversion of configuration. The configuration has totally been inverted. Which configuration? You must have heard of dextro and levorotatory. When you pass light, plain polarized light, through an organic compound and the light is moving towards right, we say the compound is optically active and it is dextrorotatory. And if the light is turning towards left, then we say it is levorotatory. But by just looking at the structures, we can't say this is dextro or levo. But imagine if this is dextro, then the opposite configuration has to be levo. And if this is levo, the first one, then the opposite has to be dextro. So that's why I'm calling it inversion of configuration. And there is 100% inversion. It's not possible that some molecules have dextro and some have levo in the compound. All will be having same configuration, which will be definitely opposite of the configuration in the starting haloalkane. So in SN2 mechanism, there is 100% inversion of configuration. This figure has specially been taken from NCERT with due credit, because they have explained in a beautiful manner the same reaction which I just explained using SN2 mechanism, that this is the nucleophile which is approaching, and this nucleophile is coming on this carbon which is having this electron rich species attached to it, like Cl was there in the previous slide. And this is the intermediate which is formed here. You can see the middle carbon is having 5 bonds. And finally, the Cl minus is set free and you get these two products. So these two are the reactants, nucleophile and the haloalkane. This is the intermediate as explained earlier, and this is the compound formed, the product with inverted configuration. The configuration of carbon atom under attack inverts in same way as an umbrella is turned inside out. And that's why this is called inversion of configuration. Easy to understand. This intermediate is also termed as transition state, because the transition from the reactant to product is taking place. And the carbon atom is simultaneously bonded to incoming nucleophile and outgoing leaving group. So it is unstable. It cannot remain like that because it's showing 5 bonds of the central carbon. That's why it finally gives us the desired product. Same thing again emphasized here, again from NCERT. If you have primary alkyl halide or haloalkane, this is primary and this is also primary. So here what is happening if I compare methyl with ethyl, and here is the carbon to which the halogen is attached. So that's why it has been shown in the center like this. Here you have this carbon also, but this is not attached to halogen. So we have to concentrate on this bond because this bond is polar, and here the attack of nucleophile will take place on this carbon. So if you have carbon attached to 3 hydrogens in methyl only, hydrogens are very small as compared to even with the smallest R group, that is methyl group. So in case of primary, methyl has maximum available space around the carbon where nucleophile has to come and attack, because the smaller H atoms are surrounding it. If there is one more primary but there is one R group, we have taken the smallest R group, still this R group is much bigger than hydrogen, so nucleophile finds it slightly difficult to come and attack on carbon. And imagine if you have secondary or tertiary alkyl halides. You can see that the ability of nucleophile to approach the carbon to attack on decreases, and this factor is called steric hindrance. And here some numbers in parentheses are also written: 30, then 1, then 0.02 and 0, almost a 0, because these numbers are telling you the relative reactivity of these primary, secondary and tertiary alkyl halides with the nucleophile purely based on the steric factor. So on the basis of this, we can give an order of reactivity for SN2 mechanism only. SN2 mechanism is definitely preferred by primary halides. Why? Because nucleophile has a lot of space to come and attack when the halogen is still intact. Then you have secondary halide and the least would be tertiary halide. The second mechanism, which is also quite interesting, that is SN1, substitution, nucleophilic, unimolecular. Uni means one. Because it follows first order kinetics, the rate of the reaction depends upon the concentration of only one reactant, that is the alkyl halide. If I take a tertiary alkyl halide and show the attack of OH minus on it, which is a nucleophile, the simple reaction would be Br is replaced by OH minus. So this is nucleophilic substitution again. But here it follows two steps. And the first step is the rate determining step, which tells you the speed of the reaction. Alkyl halide, initially in the first step, wherever you have SN2, there is 2 in the name of the mechanism, it has only one step because the intermediate or transition state cannot be separated, isolated. That's quite unstable. So we consider the whole reaction a single step. And in SN1, where there is 1 in the name, we have 2 steps. Remember it like that. So initially, the carbocation will be formed. What is happening? The bond between carbon and halogen is breaking and you get a carbocation. So from sp3, if I draw the wedge and dash, it would be just like, for this particular alkyl halide, it would be just like the methyl chloride that we had seen earlier. And then after losing Br minus, it changes to sp2 hybridized. So from tetrahedral, the geometry is changing to trigonal planar. Now these three bonds are in the same plane. And the incoming nucleophile, suppose OH minus is coming, second step that you will write would be like this. The OH minus is coming. Now it has equal probability that it can attack from, I'll just show you, that it can attack from this side, imagine in 3 dimensions, or it can attack from exactly opposite side. Equal probability, 50-50% chances, because there is nothing to hinder it now. As in the previous case, the halide was already there, so the nucleophile had to come from 180-degree opposite side. Here it can attack from any side. So I'll just show you that if you have this type of arrangement in the beginning when the reaction is starting, finally if this is converting to a carbocation which is not having Br attached to it, the product may have exactly same geometry, same orientation, I should say. Geometry would only be tetrahedral, and it may have OH here on the opposite side also. This, or the other possibility is exactly like the starting material, same orientation. So for these two, there are equal chances to get this or this. Notice the difference in their orientation. And some very interesting carbocations are there. This is called allyl carbocation. Double bond, carbon is attached to a double bond. So the positive charge is on the carbon which is next to the double bond. Because of that, this one, which is called allyl carbocation, ALLYL, it is quite stable because there is resonance possible, as has been shown here with the help of arrows. So these two structures are possible. And in case of benzyl carbocation also, the resonance is possible. So such carbocations and tertiary carbocations, because there are 3 R groups in tertiary and R groups are electron donating groups. So because of their plus I effect, the 3 R groups are giving stability to the carbocation. So if you have such type of carbocations, they will definitely prefer this mechanism, which is SN1 mechanism. And if I write the order again for SN1 mechanism, it would be just opposite of SN2 that we have seen in the previous slides. So here methyl will have the minimum probability of showing this mechanism because CH3 carbocation is not stable. Then primary halide, at least one R group would be there. It is more stable than CH3 plus. So that's why its carbocation would be more stable than CH3 plus. That's why the order is like this. It is increasing this way. And maximum would be tertiary. So how do we know that, whether the product which we are getting has 100% inversion or not? For that, there is a particular device, polarimeter, which is used. There is a light source. I was telling you about dextro and levo. And here you have unpolarized light. The molecules are propagating in all the possible directions. Then there is a polarizer through which it passes, and now you can see the direction of propagation is this only. It is fixed now. And then they see that if it is passing absolutely straight like this, it remains as it is. That means the sample of organic compound that you have filled here in the tube is not optically active. But if the light is turning towards right or left after passing through the tube, which is filled with organic compound, we say it is optically active. So if the light, as you can see, the direction of propagation is changing from here to here, right? From this, it has turned like this. So we can say that the polarized light is rotated through a particular angle. And this is how we decide if it is rotating towards right. From here we observe it. That what is the direction of rotation? If it is towards our right, it will be dextrorotatory. If it is towards left, we call it levorotatory. So this is how the analyzer helps in analyzing finally that what is the nature of the organic compound. So if we start with a particular compound, if the compound is here, we fill the organic compound in the beginning, the alkyl halide, I can find out whether it is dextro or levo. And after carrying out the reaction, the product can again be filled here and found whether it is dextro or levo. So that gives you an idea that whether there is inversion or not. Now you must have noticed that in case of SN1 and SN2, the mechanisms have a different number of steps. And there we can explain, as I told you, for SN2, there was 100% inversion in configuration. Now let us see what happens in SN1. In case of SN1, suppose I take this reaction, hydrolysis of optically active 2-bromobutane. This is optically active. Why? Because this carbon is having 4 different attachments. There is a Br, there is a methyl, there is a hydrogen, there is a ethyl. So because of these different attachments, this carbon is chiral, asymmetric. And wherever you have asymmetry, there will be optical activity. And it is giving you, I must tell you first, for dextrorotatory, instead of small d, nowadays plus is used. And for levorotatory, in place of small l, we use negative sign now. And this is quite interesting that SN1 mechanism, I can call it SN1 because I can see a carbocation here. So this slide is obviously explaining SN1 mechanism. So in SN1 mechanism, the product would be having plus minus together. What does it mean? It means that once you get this carbocation, there is equal probability of attack of the nucleophile from this side, opposite where the halogen was there earlier, just to make you understand, or from the same side where the halogen was present already. There are 50% chances. So if the attack is from the same side where Br was placed earlier, it will be having exactly same configuration. Suppose this was a dextro. So here I will be getting a product C. It is explained here. OH minus is attacking from this side. So I am getting this compound which is having same configuration as the starting material. This and this. Same. Suppose I used polarimeter and I found that this is dextro. So this also has to be dextro. And if OH minus is coming from this side, then I will get exactly opposite configuration of this, that is levo. By chance in this they have given that this is levo and this is a dextro. That means the one with which you started was levo in nature. So you got the same configuration here, levo, and this is just the opposite, dextro. I have explained in both the ways. Here, because it is given it is dextro, then we can say it is dextro because these things are found experimentally. Just by looking at the structure, you cannot predict dextro or levo. So that's why I have explained, imagining that this was dextro and then again taking this as levo. Now there are 50% chances that I get this compound with this orientation. Compound is same, orientation is different, and there are 50% chances of this orientation, right? So that's why in the compound, which is the product, we write plus minus because both are getting formed. And such mixtures which have exactly same percentage of both the orientations, dextro and LIGO, 50-50%. That is called a racemic mixture. Racemic mixture. Now it is a matter of chance that in a particular reaction you get exactly 50-50%. It may be slightly different from that, but I cannot call that a racemic mixture if it is not exactly 50-50%. Understand the difference. Whenever you have two opposite orientations 50-50% equally, we call it racemic mixture that we obtain. Now let's come to the inversion part and retention part. Here, because the configuration was same, here if you have LIVO, this is also LIVO. So I will say from here to here in this product the configuration has been retained, but from here to here the configuration is exactly opposite. So there is 50% inversion roughly, you can say. If it is a racemic mixture, exactly 50% inversion and 50% retention. So we cannot say that it's only in SN2 mechanism that there is inversion. In SN1 also there are chances of inversion, and it depends what is the orientation, from which side it is by chance attacking. When you imagine this reaction taking place in 3D model, and then you can just explain that there is retention as well as there is inversion. So that completes the SN1 and SN2 mechanism explanation. I hope it helps you. Thank you.